Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of AstrologyAnswers.com's weekly forecast. My name is Terence. The week begins on Monday, November the 18th, 2024. This is a very important week of shifting planetary energies as the Sun is changing signs from Scorpio to Sagittarius, and transformational, powerful Pluto is changing signs from Capricorn to Aquarius. But let's start with Monday, the 18th. The moon, I always look to the moon first because the moon describes more of the public tone, the public reactions. And it's in Cancer. Cancer is more nurturing, more caring, more reflective. And there's more of a general sense of just wanting to just focus on domestic matters, family matters. Now, Mercury is the planet of information, communication, curiosity, and it's going to be aspected once a year, where it's in opposition to expansive Jupiter. You got to be careful with this because Mercury, the mind and thinking, and Jupiter, optimism and expansiveness, you could be feeling overly excited about all kinds of possibilities. So overinflated expectations is what you got to be very cautious about. But it's also going to trigger a lot of interest in making long-range plans, future plans, or travel plans, or educational plans. The Sun is in Scorpio, and it's going to start trining, or the best flow of energy, to Neptune. So the Sun is putting a spotlight on all things Neptune in a positive way. Neptune is compassionate, it's empathetic, it's creative, it stimulates the imagination, it can be focused on healing, spirituality, the intuitiveness. Those are all those positive signs, qualities of Neptune that the Sun is putting a positive spotlight. On Tuesday, the 19th, the moon continues in Cancer as the moon goes from sign to sign every 2.5 days. And that Cancer is all that sensitive, emotional, reflective energies. But on the 19th, Pluto, powerful transformational Pluto, goes into Aquarius. The last time it was in Aquarius was about 243 years ago. Now, for the past, since 2008, Pluto had been in Capricorn. Capricorn is government, it's economics, Capricorn is very conventional, traditional, and now powerful transformational Pluto is moving into Aquarius. Now, we got a preview of it last year for a few months, and then it went back into a Capricorn. And now today, the 19th, Tuesday the 19th, Pluto officially moves and stays in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So all things Aquarius is going through this huge awakening. Aquarius is technology, it's innovation, it also represents community, and the desire for personal freedoms. And that Pluto is just marking these big changes in these Aquarius ways. One example last year, when we got a preview from like March into June of 2023, when Pluto was giving us a preview, what came into the main consciousness was AI, artificial intelligence, very advanced technology. Now, we've been hearing about AI for a number of years, but it was just last year that it started to become accessible and in common use to the everyday person. On Wednesday, the 20th, the moon starts off the morning in emotional sensitive Cancer, but goes void of course from 3:20 a.m. to 5:51 a.m. Pacific time. Void, of course, means that the moon is no longer making aspects to other planets as it's in the process of leaving Cancer and going into Leo. When the moon is void, of course, the energy is flat and unproductive, and it's always advised not to begin important new projects because the energy can just fall flat or take so much more effort to accomplish your goals. At 5:51 a.m. Pacific time, the moon leaves Cancer, leaves the void, of course, and moves into fiery, dynamic, extroverted Leo for the next 2.5 days. And by mid-afternoon Pacific time, that Leo moon is going to cross over restless, impatient, aggressive Mars. Now, for a couple of hours mid-afternoon Pacific time, that moon-Mars can indicate a lot of emotional moon, impulsiveness, anxiousness, but it can also go towards irritability, being tense. This too shall pass. This could be a good time if you're feeling this anxiousness is exercise, meditation, yoga. Just center the mind, center the body, and within an hour or two, this stressful energy will move on. On Thursday, the 21st, the moon is still in dynamic, outgoing, fiery Leo, and the sun is leaving emotional, watery Scorpio and going into fiery Sagittarius. And it'll be there for the next 4 weeks. So we're having the moon in fiery Leo and the sun moving into fiery Sagittarius, a lot of robust energy, enthusiasm, excitement about possibilities. Friday, the moon continues in extroverted, playful, dynamic Leo, but it also goes void, of course, but for a much longer period, from 5:15 a.m. to 3:01 p.m. Pacific time, at which point it's moving into earthy, sensible, practical Virgo. But during that void, of course, remember the moon is in the process of changing signs, and it's no longer making aspects to other planets in the chart. So the energy is flat. It's unproductive. Very, very much advised not to start important new projects because the energy isn't there to really sustain it. And Venus, the planet of love and harmony and creativity, will be in harmony with Saturn all day. Now, since most of the day the moon is void, of course, with the Venus-Saturn, you don't want to start new creative projects, but you could be wrapping up or really establishing more of these creative projects. Venus is also a planet that deals with finances, and Saturn is a business planet. Again, just continue what you've been doing financially. Maybe you're feeling more confident from what you've been doing, but not starting anything new. And when it comes to relationships, this is a very positive energies to be really working on the relationship, but continuing the process previously, not just deciding to start couple counseling as an example when the moon's void, of course. On Saturday, the moon is in that critical, analytical, sensible Virgo, which it went into on Friday. And all day Saturday, that moon's in Virgo. Well, Virgo is very service-oriented, work-oriented, very practical. A lot can be accomplished. You could be feeling a lot more grounded and sensible. But late afternoon, Pacific time, the moon in Virgo will be in opposition to Saturn in Pisces. So for an hour or two, trying to get your emotional needs met, the moon, to Saturn. Saturn is about separation or frustration, limitations, coldness. So it is an hour or two of feeling maybe you're worrying emotionally, maybe you're frustrated emotionally, maybe you're really worried about the continuation of a relationship, but it's only an hour or two. On Sunday, the 24th, the moon is continuing in practical, sensible Virgo. Early afternoon, however, Pacific time, the moon, which can be very subjective emotional influence, will be squaring or in a hard angle to analytical, rational Mercury. So early afternoon, Pacific time, that moon Uranus could make conversations, decision-making, very stressful and very difficult because your emotions, your opinions, your subjective energy is clouding up and stressing out your rational mind. But as that's only an hour or two, as we get beyond the moon Mercury, then the moon will be trining or in harmony with innovative, insightful Uranus, late afternoon Pacific time. This could be that there might be some real communication issues, frustrations, worries earlier in the afternoon, but then with the moon to Uranus a couple hours later, when you could be then getting these new insights and moving forwards and getting out of an old routine and shaking things up with a new, more optimistic perspective. So the day ends well. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you next week with my next segment. Until then, be safe and well.